John Gunner is Chief Electric Technical Officer. The electronics in his charge are more extensive than just about anything else at sea.
It is the first fly-by-wire ship, and I would suggest that it's probably 5 years ahead of its time in terms of the use of electronics at sea.
Electronics are used to control the engines, something we shall be seeing a little later, as well as for communications and navigation. Even some of the taps in the galley area are turned on and off by electronic sensors, without anyone having to touch them. That's both hygienic and saves water. Rather more impressive is the way the ship relies on computers to tell it where to go. They're an important part of what the Commodore referred to as the integrated bridge, developed for Oriana by P&O. John Gunner again.
The integrated bridge system takes in information from all the elements that are on conventional ships, like radar information, depth sounders, speed logs, and wind direction and speed, satellite navigation, and all those elements are fed into a computer network and then are used to control the ship both in speed and track.
In theory, then, the computers could navigate the ship all the way from Southampton to the Mediterranean without the lifting of a human finger.
In general terms, the officers on the bridge can program the computer using the planning and consulting station and the electronic charts available to them. They can program the ship to take a certain speed and various courses between ports, and the ship will follow those tracks and those speeds and alter course accordingly as required. The officers obviously keep a watch from the bridge and have to accept every time a course change is required, but they simply press a button and the ship carries on as programmed.
Computers have also got rid of the radio room. In an emergency, a distress call is sent automatically to the rescue services on shore, and behind the bridge is the safety center. This is where the elaborate fire detection system is monitored. From this point also, all the fire screen and watertight doors can be closed so an emergency can be contained and fire prevented from spreading. There are 5,200 fire detector heads in the ship, all wired into an alarm system that registers on these screens. Bill Kent.
If we have an alarm come up, we can actually get the address of the alarm, exactly where it is, rather than getting like very much a broad picture that it's on a certain area within a deck. We can actually now find exactly if it's gone off in a certain cabin or a certain storeroom or whatever. We can then isolate that it's actually gone off through fire. And if we then find that the heat is spreading from there, the actual system will go into a pre-alarm, which will then tell us where the actual fire, the seat of the fire is.
But electronics haven't entirely disposed of people. They haven't replaced Rashid.
We still have to have a fire patrol, literally 24 hours a day. We have a sailor who walks around the ship, and he has to log in to actually cover the whole ship. He does a 4-hour patrol, of which he does 2 separate and distinct rounds in that period, and he goes from top to bottom and visits all the places which are like closed up, the storerooms, through the accommodation areas. And so if the alarm system doesn't pick it up, he hopefully, with his period of walking around the ship, will pick up either smoke or heat, or maybe just sort of say a smell which might be indicative of a fire about to happen.
In Oriana's medical centre, a young passenger with a sore thumb is examined by Dr. Stuart Fleming.
Is that you suck that one? Oh, my daughter still sucked the thumb and she's about 12. Would you just drop him down at some stage for the next 24 hours just to let me have a real look at that joint again? At sea, it's principally a general practice, a family practice. So the people who come to see me are coming with minor ailments. They may be coming with their coughs and colds, their sunburn, their swollen ankles. That's the sort of thing that routinely comes along to the general practitioner, is what I tend to see. So the bulk of the hospital area is devoted to a clinic, a small outpatient clinic.
That includes a pharmacy, so prescriptions can be made up instantly. But occasionally, the doctor and his staff, and the nurses on board tend to be very highly qualified, have to treat more serious cases.
We have got quite a sophisticated little facility, and we have a hospital behind the clinic, and we would admit any serious patients to that area. And we do, in fact, unfortunately, have heart attacks and strokes and other such illnesses pneumonias, whatever. We see the range of any illness that any hospital ashore might see. Intensive care ward is really quite sophisticated. We have cardiac monitors which relay into the nursing station so that the nurse can actually watch a couple of beds and look at fairly complicated cardiac rhythms and alert the doctors as necessary if further treatment's required. We have got intravenous pumps to deliver quite sophisticated intravenous medications, and we do in fact use very modern cardiac drugs in our ICU. Most patients with cardiac problems would be kept on board because we feel that principally we can make them more stable in our own hospital environment and monitor them more effectively where we are. But if there's a major surgery required, needing a specialist surgical team, then we would try to get them to a port ashore. This can be done now by helicopter. The helicopter evacuation facilities around the world are becoming more sophisticated.
The doctor spoke to us in the operating theatre. How often is that used?
This is an area we would hope not to use for major surgery, although it is available for that. In the past I have taken appendixes out at sea, but that's rather a rarity nowadays, particularly cruising when you're in port every day, every second day, when obviously major surgery would be landed to hospital ashore.
Many of the facilities, like the gym, which passengers enjoy elsewhere in the ship, are duplicated, only a little less lavishly for the crew. This is their library. And here, their recreation room. Conditions in these areas are the sort of things discussed by the ship's committee, on which every section of the crew is represented. The monthly meetings are chaired by the staff captain. What else comes up?
It may involve work or living conditions, food on board, anything like that. And anyone can bring up a subject which they feel needs discussion, and it's thrown open to the committee, or a decision that it may be necessary for me to make. And hopefully we can come to solutions rather than anything just sort of rumbling on as a general subject of discontent. We can solve the problems on the spot.
The officers have their own social areas. Their dining room is busiest at breakfast. Next door is the wardroom. Drinking alcohol is restricted for all members of the crew on or off duty.